Hi Questers, welcome back to the channel. Okay, so I thought I'd make this video because I had a comment on one of my other ones, and I'll just show you the comment and explain what's going on. Okay, so Exodus Paddy said, "Are you interested in sci-fi horror movies such as Event Horizon 1997 or the new Dune franchise?" I am interested in sci-fi horror. The only issue is that there's not a lot of good ones. Um, But Event Horizon is definitely one of them, one of the good ones. And thanks for saying that the screen graphics look okay, but the problem is I'm not happy with them. So I hope you understand. Well, I'm not happy with it. I have to be happy with it. You guys are happy with it, but you know, it's just um, if I'm to grow my channel, I need to make some changes. And just for this, this video is for you. Um, this video is for you, Exodus Paddy, and it's great you live in Wales. I lived in Wales for a while. Actually, lived in Llanybydder, and I lived there for on and off for 10 years. I moved back down to London a couple of times, but ended up going back to Wales. Not because I liked it. I actually had quite a bad experience in Wales. Nothing really happened to me, but I had trouble finding work as an English guy with a Welsh name living in Wales, because my real name is actually Melvin Daniels, and as you know, being in Wales, Melvin Daniels are very common Welsh names, right? And even though Melvin is also an English name, the way mine is spelt is the Welsh way. So I would get job interviews, but as soon as I'd walk in, they would hear my accent, and basically they make their decision based on that, which I wasn't happy about. Even the job centre at the time um, was was pretty ignorant because I was British or English, which is really annoying because I like to call myself British because it's Great Britain, right? Great Britain is made up of the United Kingdom, which is England, Scotland, Wales, Ireland, right? So Northern Ireland, just to say. And yeah, so this one's for you, and I hope you like this Exodus because this is going to be a reaction to Event Horizon, just for you guys, just for you, bud. You know, and I hope you're doing okay, and yeah. But anyone, if you like my content, please hit that thumbs up, hit the subscribe button, and select all in the notification bell. And yeah, feel free to comment down below, just like Exodus did, and I'll get back to you um, if and when I can. Okay, so let's get into Event Horizon. Now, I haven't seen this in a while, so hopefully I can remember it. But when it first came out, I must have watched it over and over and over again when it came out on DVD. Um, I'm surprised I didn't wear out the DVD or the DVD player, to be honest. Um, but yeah, so Event Horizon. Let's take a look. Okay, so this is supposed to. Let me just turn that light on. There we go. 2047, huh? That's not far off, is it? I mean, it's 2023 now, so it's not long at all, is it? A little over 20 years ish. Um, it's interesting that they in the 90s we thought that we would be more advanced than we are right now. But yeah, I'm actually remembering now that there are parts in this film that I would say weren't necessary. But what can you do? It was a 90s film. It had a great cast. I mean, Lawrence Fishburne, brilliant. Sam Neill, brilliant. And Sean Pertwee. I used to loved Sean Pertwee in a lot of the stuff he did. I'm actually thinking I might do a reaction to Dog Soldiers. Um, because it has a really great line from him. So I'm in the Kazi. Nice. But yeah, let's get into this, and we'll talk some more in a bit. Yeah, okay. So this is Event Horizon. This is the deep space research vessel, Deep Horizon. Now let me try and remember something. It's supposed to have an, an experimental subspace fold engine, if I remember correctly, where it's supposed to create a fold in space and travel through it. Um, it is a scientifically feasible idea. I mean, there's nothing to show that it can't happen except for the one issue that any type of space travel will have, and that is power requirements. But it's an interesting design. It's very reminiscent of a multitude of things, but I won't go into that detail because ship design should be modular, and Event Horizon does look and feel very modular by design. So it's possible that that long extension between the drive section and the command section or habitat section could be modified and have parts added to it like cargo modules and stuff like that. So there's no problem with the design. It looks very interesting for a starship, for a spaceship, especially designed by humans to explore the outer rim of the solar system. Um, Now, recently, I've watched some videos on YouTube about the Voyager 2 probe and how that has left the solar system. And on the boundary of the solar system is interesting that there seems to be like a barrier type deal, like a barrier. When it penetrated it sent back some interesting stuff. So, I mean, if you want to find out some more stuff about what it's, what the Voyager 2 probe found when it left the solar system, look them up. I can't remember the link, so I watched. I say recently, but it was several months ago that I watched them. It was around the time. Actually, no, it was last year, I believe. I think it was early last year because I was watching a lot of the Mars rover footage, the live broadcast from the was it Perseverance, um, which was very interesting. It was great to see live images of Mars. There's a lot of videos been put up of supposed aliens and stuff like that, but there's nothing, as far as they can tell right now. There's no evidence of anything there. But I mean, they are planning another rover mission to Mars, and hopefully they'll be able to put some different equipment on it, and also they're attempting to create a craft that will be able to go to Mars and retrieve the samples from the Perseverance rover, which will be interesting when they arrive. But yeah, it's definitely shown some interesting things. I mean, it's shown that there is there is moisture in the atmosphere because it dug a little hole, and the camera watched it, and it actually formed ice, which actually proves that there are water molecules in the atmosphere, which I thought was interesting. It was really great. Um, and there was also Ingenuity, wasn't there? The first rotary drone on Mars, and because no one knew if a current designed aircraft or drone would actually work, and they sent Ingenuity, and she worked. And apparently, she's only recently failed to start working again after over a year on Mars. It's crazy. And Perseverance is still going apparently, a lot longer than they expected. From what I can understand. But anyway, that is real world science. This is supposed to be a science fiction reaction, so it's just I thought that was really interesting because they do mention Mars in the opening credits. Well, the opening title. I don't know. It's not a crawl, but yeah. Okay. So let's get back into this and stop talking real science and start talking sci-fi. Sam Neill wakes up from a nightmare. Doesn't wake up very dramatically for it being a nightmare, you know. He just casually wakes up and he's like, okay. I guess he must be having these nightmares for a long, long time. Maybe he's been having that same nightmare since they lost the ship. I mean, it has been a number of years. I mean, why in the future? I know it's only 2047 in this, but why in the future would you still be shaving with a straight razor? Why would you be shaving with a regular razor? It just doesn't make sense. I mean, surely they would have had improved the that's what's that one now that they have now? It's it uses does it use a laser or it uses the sonic wave to actually trim your beard, to trim your stubble, which is interesting. I mean, I wish I could afford one because they're expensive at the moment, I think. Um, but you know, it seems that they advanced the technology for trimming women's legs before trimming a man's beard. I mean, surely it would have been easier to do it for someone's face than legs because the face is more sensitive than your legs, right? So I'm just saying, because it doesn't make sense that someone would still shave with a straight razor. I mean, we even see that in Star Trek, but in Star Trek, I mean, you get those. It's so far in the future that you would, you probably would get people using an older traditional style for trimming, shaving a beard off, like in what was it? What one was it? Was it Insurrection? I think it was, wasn't it? When Riker shaved his beard off. Well, when Deanna shaved Riker's beard off. Uh, but yeah, it's nice to see Sam Neill again, and it's going to be good to see Lawrence Fishburne and Sean Pertwee as well. Not really a futuristic or even current type of space station. That is it. It's just a modular system where I suppose ships are supposed to dock there, refuel, and then leave. It's like a way station type deal, which is interesting. Is that supposed to be Earth or Mars? Because if they settled, if they colonized Mars, then maybe they started terraforming it, which is why there's water there. But if that's supposed to be Earth, it doesn't look right. That must mean that the polar ice caps or the and Antarctica have melted and the sea levels have risen. But I mean, from the terrain, I'd say that's Mars, right? What do you guys think? Comment down below. Do you think that's Mars? Do you think they're in orbit of Mars? Because that would make sense. But there's a lot of water there, a lot of water there. So I mean, it could be Earth, and it could be over a desert area, but the lack of greenery would kind of suggest that it's failing, uh, not climate. What am I trying to think of? It's the environment. It's failing ecosystem. That's it. Low Earth orbit. So I would assume that they must be in orbit over maybe Africa or something like that. It's hard to say, really, isn't it? I mean, it doesn't really look like any terrain that I've seen on Google Earth or anything. But you know, I could be wrong. Could be wrong. Um, so that's the Lewis and Clark. The interesting thing is the USAC. Is that the United States of America colonial vessel, maybe? Because you would think that it would more likely be something along the lines of United Earth. Um, I think it's a bit annoying in some of these futuristic sci-fis where they would think that the USA as a nation would have ships traveling amongst the solar system. I mean, in my opinion, if you've got colonies inside the system, whether they're space stations, colonies on moons, planets, whatever, doesn't matter where they are. You would think that at that point in time, all the nations of Earth would probably use all their They would combine all their resources and stuff, right? So you would think that if Elon Musk was to colonize Mars, you would think that any ship launched would be a united ship, not a USA or British or anything like that. You wouldn't have an individual nation's ship, would you? Because you would have to represent multiple nations, wouldn't you? So it would be a United Earth ship or United Nations, like in The Expanse, or and surely Mars would have their own ships as well. So you would have Mars colonial ships, maybe. But the fact that this has USAC or it has USA in it, I'm not happy with that. I never have been. I think it's kind of short-sighted to think that USA would be the only ones with that level of technology, because it wouldn't be right. Um, but I mean, look at recently. India have landed a ship on the moon, on the dark side of the moon, I think it was. And that's the first um, time India have done it, and no one knew about it. But there's a political issue going on there, because they took money from that. What the UK, the British government, gave India billions of pounds to fund their well, to basically to improve the lives of the people, and they decided to use that money to build a ship to travel to the moon. It's unmanned, yes, but it just doesn't seem right to me. I mean, there's a political issue there, which means that they've falsely accumulated money that was given to them by the British government and used it in a way that it wasn't intended. So, as far as I'm concerned, India should not receive any more money from the British government as a result of them allocating it to the wrong resource. I mean, they're supposed to be um, improving the lives of the citizens, right? But they don't seem to care about their citizens in India, which is annoying, which is really, really frustrating, because billions of pounds, stroke dollars. It's a lot of money. I mean, what would you do with $1 billion? I mean, and and they're not using it for the intention it was made, that it was given to them for. And you just think that how corrupt the government must be to not give a toss about their own people. But I mean, I digress. It's something that I feel quite strongly about, because I'm really pissed off with it. The fact that India would do that. I mean, money that was intended to help their people, they just decided to build a spacecraft that can travel to the moon and land on it, and probably come back with some moon rocks. I just don't condone it. It's just ridiculous. I mean, their people are in poverty. Some of them are probably they're starving to death. I mean, but you a lot of people would argue that, oh yeah, they're that way because of the British imperial system. It's like, well, no, they're not. They're that way because that's the way that their government chooses to treat them, essentially, which is disgraceful. But I digress. I still digress. I'll try not to go into that again. But I just feel strongly about it, and I don't accept it. There's Pertwee. I do like Pertwee. He's a really good actor. He's done some really good job, some very good movies. And if you haven't seen any of them, I suggest you have a look on IMDb or anywhere and try and watch whatever films he's made. I mean, he's a really, really good actor. And then we get Fishburne, the captain or commander of the ship. So the Lewis and Clark is categorised as a search and rescue ship, and the crew are complaining that they're not going to Mars. I'm guessing that they must have been on a mission before, which was a long term mission. But the weird thing is they sleep through most of it anyway, so I don't know what they're complaining about. It's one of the things I don't like about a lot of production, a lot of movies and stuff, is when you see them in almost nothing. They're always holding their stomach in and pushing their chest out, aren't they? Right. So I mean, it's just it. I tried it and it's really uncomfortable, really uncomfortable, and you know, just you know, I didn't always look like this, but it's really uncomfortable. Like I say, I mean, why they did it? I mean, yeah, I can understand if you've got big muscles and a big, you know, and that, but I mean, you're not. If you haven't got a big muscly build and you're going to hold your stomach in, it's just a waste of effort, really. It really is. Um, you're a human being. We're human beings. We know what a human body looks like, and it doesn't look like something like, you know, it doesn't look like that naturally. So you're holding yourself in an unnatural position where you're holding your stomach in, and you know you get uncomfortable. You probably get cramps as well for doing it. You also tense up your muscles as well whilst you're doing it. So it's a lot of effort for no real reason, except oh, I don't want people to see that I've got a belly. So what? You've got a belly. You're a human being. Human beings have bellies. Okay, so let me just talk about one thing. Sorry, you got some steam coming on. I just made a coffee. Um, just talk about one thing that wasn't necessary. Now, the entire film could have just started with the Lewis and Clark approaching Neptune. There was no actual reason for the bit leading up to that because he could have had, you know, he had a nightmare whilst in stasis anyway. So all that stuff leading up to that just was pointless. I mean, it could have just had the ship approaching Neptune, right? I mean, it's not like Aliens, where Aliens had that little build-up part before, and yeah, so that was important. That's just something I wanted to point out because it was really unnecessary to have all that sort of stuff leading up to the point where the Lewis and Clark was approaching Neptune. Now you could have just opened it up with the credits still going and had the Lewis and Clark approaching Neptune with Neptune appearing in the you know sort of panning across with the moon just like it was, but you don't need that lead up to that point because you don't. It's not necessary. I mean, he's now that they're at Neptune. This is when he's going to brief them. Why couldn't he brief them before they went into stasis? I mean, would that not have made more sense that way? That would have explained why they had that long, drawn out start. It's not necessary. It really wasn't necessary. Okay, so they just said that the designation of the ship is the United Space Aerospace Command ship, Lewis and Clark. Well, doesn't aerospace kind of cover space? I mean, what does NASA stand for? National Aerospace and Scientific Agency? And then no, it's National Space Administration Service, isn't it? Or association or agency. Yeah. So, I mean, you don't need space. Was it maybe United System? I'll have to go back and listen to it. No, it's the US Aerospace Command, Lewis and Clark. United States Aerospace. Do you see my issue with that? I mean, politically, that would be really, really bad. It would have been better if it was more along the lines of United Nations Aerospace Command, maybe. That would have been better. Um, but saying that, it's just the way that the writer had done it. You know, it's just the way the writer wrote it. So, but I mean, that's just the way I would have gone. I would have called it the United Nations Aerospace Command Ship, Lewis and Clark, not the United States or the US Aerospace Command, because it just sounds better with United Nations in it. Even though I wouldn't accept the United Nations being in a solar system spanning agency or organization. A lot of smoking for a ship. It seems like most of the crew, or some of the crew, probably just some of the crew, but they smoke on a ship in space with atmospheric filtering and processing. I'm not sure that would be acceptable, to be honest. Um, artificial gravity and stuff as well, which to me suggests an issue, especially considering that the captain's chair is basically it's attached to the ceiling. Uh, it's odd, odd. It's not a very impressive looking ship, really, from the inside. But on the outside, it looks really, really good. It looks like it was actually built in the same shipyard that built the Event Horizon in the first place. But the inside, the bridge, I don't know. There's something about it. Something about it. So only three of them board the Event Horizon. That doesn't make sense because then two of them go to the bridge, and the third goes to engineering on his own, which, in my opinion, should be wrong. You'd think that it would be better to have four people so that you can have someone watching your back just in case, because you don't know what's happened on the ship. You don't know anything really, so you would want someone watching your back, and at the same time, they don't have any weapons. I mean, yes, they might be a search and rescue thing, but it's just interesting that they don't have any form of defense. I mean, even even the Coast Guard in America is trained to use weapons, right? So you'd think that they would have that kind of training and carry weapons when they go to a ship, especially one under these circumstances where they don't know what's going on. And after hearing that broadcast, the audio recording it would be pretty disturbing, wouldn't it? I mean, sorry about that. Just had a notification. But anyway, um, yeah, it just doesn't. It just seems strange that they don't seem to be following any regulations or rules that would possibly be in place. I mean, three people boarding a ship, then you separate into two groups. It's just ridiculous. You would need four to board a ship, right? It makes sense. So they come across these explosive devices on the corridor that are supposed to separate the forward section from the engineering in the event of an emergency, so that the front section can act as a lifeboat. Um, but this is important later on, if I remember correctly. The part of the corridor is actually looks like a meat grinder. Oh, it's interesting. Oh, I completely forgot about that. I mean, it just looks like a meat grinder. I mean, everything about that section is designed to. It looks like it's designed to kill someone, especially in low. If there's no gravity, I mean, you would just drift right into some of those blades and just be sliced up, wouldn't you? So now it looks like they've split off into three teams, and one of them is now entering the bridge, and the bridge looks. It's a very submarine style bridge, but with a huge command chair at the forward section behind the pilot and navigation um, stations, I suppose. But I mean, I could be wrong. I mean, the central chair could be the pilot's chair, but I doubt it. That's got to be. That's definitely going to be the captain's chair. So the lightning coming from outside is seems to be synchronized with the lights flickering, and behind her on the wall they have this weird goo, which, if I remember correctly, it's crew members actually being, I don't know, becoming part of the ship or something. If I remember correctly, it's not easy to remember. Again, look at that door. The inside edges of the door. It's a weird looking door because it's like a square, an offset square, right? But I mean, look at it. Everything about that engineering section is designed to kill you. I mean, look at it. It's literally designed to kill you, right? The CD as the ship's log. Um, doesn't make sense that it would be a CD, but I suppose CDs were still quite new back then, weren't they? So it's understandable that they might use them. But you would think that if they remade this, that would be a hard drive, right? That would just be like a solid state hard drive, just like the one that screwed up my computer. Uh, yeah, you'd think that in modern day terms it would be like an SSD, right? but she doesn't know that there's the body of one of the crew members is floating behind her. Okay, so she was startled by the corpse of one of the crew members floating around. But the interesting thing is, one of the first things that one of them thinks is explosive decompression. But I believe there's more evidence to prove that explosive decompression like that doesn't happen. It's not like what we believed it was like back then. It's very different. So, I mean, you would freeze if you were drifting in space, but I mean, explosive decompression is it's just a myth that was going around back then. I think science has actually proved that that it wouldn't happen that way. So, I mean, I think I think I will do a should they remake Event Horizon, because that would be actually a very interesting thing to see, Event Horizon in the more modern terms, um, with the science that we know now to make it more realistic, and obviously visually it will look better. I mean, don't get me wrong, it looks good, but as this is from Paramount Plus, which I'm watching through Amazon Prime, I'm assuming that this has been upscaled resolution wise. I mean, look at it. He's scanning for life forms and look around. Everywhere you look, there's fucking great spikes everywhere. That entire ship is literally designed to kill people, you know? I mean, look at those spikes. The spikes have spikes. It's crazy. Why would you design something like that? It's just there's no engineering reason why you would need all those spikes, is there? Other than the fact that it's meant to kill people if they bump into it. That's just crazy. So that's the core, is it? Just a sphere in with rings going around it, with spikes on the outer ring. Okay, okay. I think I'll definitely do a remake, a should they remake video for this, because it would be nice to see a remake of it. And I think as it came out in '97, I think it's been long enough, hasn't it? I mean, we are in the era right now of remakes, reboots, and reimaginings, aren't we? I mean, look, there really are spikes everywhere in that room, and that's the main engineering core. Spikes everywhere. How can you say that that ship is not designed to kill people? It's so crazy. Okay, so this is about where it starts to go sinisterish. Because when that light shines, I think that's like it opening the portal kind of deal. Um, so yeah, I mean, because I mean, the whole thing of this is that the ship doesn't travel from one place to another. It actually travelled into a different dimension, and that's what caused the crew to die and everything, and that's what causes the problem, right? Um, I don't mind ruining it for you. I mean, if you haven't seen it, then you shouldn't be watching this video anyway. Yeah, see, that's the portal. I mean, the sphere has suddenly disappeared and it's become this black stuff. And yeah, it's like there's an old movie that I remember watching. I can't remember if it was. I think it was from the early '90s, maybe late '80s or something, where the devil was trying to come through a mirror. I can't remember the name of it, but if I can ever remember it, I will actually do a reaction to it because it's it's an odd one, you know. But yeah, still you can still see the spikes. I mean, seriously, spikes. So you turn the power on, turn the gravity on, and the younger guy gets pulled in to that black stuff after putting his finger in it and putting his hand in. So he's just asking to be dragged into it, right? And everything all goes pear shaped after that, and the Lewis and Clark gets damaged, and they have to transfer over to the Event Horizon, and then they turn the power on, gravity, everything. So, but I mean, with the lights on, Event Horizon looks amazing. It definitely would be nice to see a more modern take on this film. Um, but with the way things are at the moment, I don't think we're going to get anything along these lines. But I mean, it was a good film in the 90s. But later on, it's just not as good as it could be now. So Justin, the young crew member, he tried to kill himself by blasting himself out in space whilst being manipulated by Event Horizon. So they have a very alien-like scene. So I'm guessing that they drew a lot from Alien as well. So they're getting these canisters because they need them in order to get home on the Lewis and Clark. But I mean, it's very reminiscent of the scene where they're getting the O2 canisters and they're testing them before the young lady gets killed. But it's very reminiscent. It's a very alien-like scene. That's all I'm saying. I mean, even this scene where she's running around looking for her daughter, that's supposed to be running around. I think it was her daughter. But I mean, when she pops up and looks around, it's very, very much like Alien, right? I said daughter earlier. I meant to say child. Um, but yeah, she ends up falling through a hole, and does she get impaled on a spike? No. With all those spikes around, you'd think she would have landed on a spike, but no, she landed on the grate. Nice. So we finally get to see that the whole point of him going was for the Event Horizon, but he keeps seeing his wife, who committed suicide, and kind of suggests that the Event Horizon experiment was all to do with trying to go and get her back, which is why he went there, I suppose. Why he said that she won't let them leave. She won't, not the ship won't. She won't. Um, yep. So his wife committed suicide. I do not condone suicide, and if you have suicidal thoughts or tendencies, please ask for help. There is help everywhere. Dr. Weir sounds like Atlantis, but it's not. It's Sam Neill's character. Has planted the explosives on the Lewis and Clark, which is, like I said earlier on, it was an important thing to spot. A very dramatic explosion. Um, yeah, interesting. That little block must have had a small amount of C4 in it, so I wouldn't have thought it would do that much damage, even to a spacecraft. I don't think it would actually do that much damage, to be honest. I mean, in my opinion. Um, you got to bear in mind that it's only supposed to break the corridor that joins, or the break the spine that connects the habitat section to engineering, right? So it wouldn't be an extremely large explosion. It would be a series of smaller explosions just to break the supports, right? So one of those, I don't think would have done that much damage. No, I don't think it would have done that much damage. I still can't believe that he survived. He's on a bit of debris flying through space, and he's still alive. He's just complaining, like, why is this shit got to happen to me? So he decides to try and get back to the ship by blowing his air tank. Now, surely he would suffocate before he arrives back at the Event Horizon. I mean, you've got to bear in mind, he's hundreds of miles away by now, right? Okay, so the captain tells him to look out for Weir. Weir blew up the Lewis and Clark. But he's like, oh yeah, don't you worry about Dr. Weir. Don't you worry about Weir, Captain. And then he turns around and Weir's there. He starts throwing him around the room. It's like, don't worry about him. Oh my god, he's got his eyes torn out and everything. So he's basically possessed by whatever is inhabiting the ship. Where we're going, we won't need eyes to see. What a line. Crazy. Now, obviously he's done that to himself, which I kind of would imply that they would realise that That's what happened to the one crew member that they found in One Piece, essentially. So now he's got telekinetic abilities. Oh, God. Weird. So Sam Neill gets blown out the windscreen after shooting it with one of those bolt things. Okay. That is the correct term, by the way, blown out. You don't get sucked out into space, you get blown out into space if there's atmosphere in the airlock. Which is something that they made a mistake of earlier on in the film as well. So they manage to survive. They pull each other. He pulls what's her name through the doorway. I can't remember her name for some reason. I'm watching it now and I can't remember her name. But yeah. So now they're by an airlock and they think that something's happening. And if I remember correctly, something is happening, but it's not what they think, or is it? No, it was Cooper. So he survives that as well. How can he survive that without any air? He blew his air tank, don't forget, to get back to the event horizon. Then he was outside the bridge window, and then he managed to make his way round to an airlock to come in. All without oxygen, by the way. And it must have taken at least 10 minutes. I mean, could you hold your breath for 10 minutes? It's not easy, is it? You could if you were trained to and practice, but with no air in your tank, would you even survive the trip from where he drifted out to the horizon? It's just, I don't know. I mean, if they remake it, I hope they do a better job. And like I say, I will be doing a should they remake video for this. They decide to blow the corridor and use the forward section as the lifeboat to survive. And the captain goes back to the engineering section, and oh look, Sam Neill's there. So Weir's there. He somehow survived being pulled out into space, or being sucked or blown out into space. Like I said before, it's blown out. But yeah, they have a bit of a fight, and then the captain manages to get hold of the detonator and detonates it. And yeah, so there will be people surviving, and yeah. So now it's just the forward section that survives, drifts off. It's nearly finished now, so I will carry on and talk about it in a bit. So 72 days later, another ship approaches the event horizon forward section, and we're about to see what's happened to the crew in those days. So then she has a nightmare before she wakes up. Okay. Okay, so she has a nightmare, just like Sam Neill did. Does that mean it's over? Okay, so that was the Event Horizon. Okay, so I do remember a lot of it. I did skip parts in between because, like I said, I've seen it before, and a lot of it was coming back to me. But yeah, it's still a good film. But it's just proof that they don't make films like they used to. Because if that was made now, it would be completely different, and it wouldn't. I mean, this version of Event Horizon was an 18 rating. If they made a new one, it would probably end up being a 15 or something like that, because the way things are. But it would also be inclusive or diverse, because you can't have diversity and inclusive in the same sentence, because according to some people, they get offended. So, because I mean, that's what they're doing. They're calling out for diversity, but they're not being inclusive in that diversity. So, how can you be diverse and not inclusive like they are? But I'm not going into that because that is just not what I'm about. So, yeah, I think, yeah, they should remake that. And I don't think I need to make a should they remake this video actually, because I've said it enough in this. But yeah, it's nice to see. Sorry, it's late. it's nice to see Lawrence Fishburne, Sam Neill, and Sean Pertwee in the same movie. The other actors, they're okay. They're not as good. They're not memorable enough as actors, in my opinion. I have seen a few of them in other projects after this, but they're just not as good, right? But yeah, it's definitely an interesting movie. When it came out, I was 16, approaching 17. So when I actually saw it, I saw it before because it's an 18 rating. I actually saw it a couple of years younger than I should have. But it was never scary. Um, it's not one that made me jump. So sorry, sorry. But yeah, it's one of those weird ones. You can tell that they've taken parts from the story aspects from other franchises, like when I was talking about the Alien parts, there are reminiscence. Because as since I started doing this channel, I've been watching things in more of a what's the word? More of a breakdown style. It's like I analyze as well as watch. So I mean, I can't just watch something now and just be entertained because there's stuff that go around in my head that just it. I analysed everything about it, which it's not a bad thing, but I mean it makes things sometimes difficult to watch again. Sorry, I'm going to bed as soon as I've made this, and I'm uploading this in the morning. But yeah, I mean, if you liked this video, please don't forget to hit that thumbs up, hit that subscribe button, and select all in the notification bell. Um, and yeah, I mean, comment down below any thoughts, ideas, or suggestions you may have. And Exodus, Paddy, I hope you enjoy this, or you did enjoy it. And please let me know any more suggestions. Um, there has been some news recently about Dune Part 2. It's being pushed back by a month now, so we're going to get it a lot later. So everything's being pushed. I'm not sure if they've actually released a new release date for Dune Part 2, but I certainly think. I'm sorry. I certainly think that that it's going to be a bit later because obviously we've got the WGA, the SAG-AFTRA strike going on right now in Hollywood. So there's going to be an issue next year with content. So they're trying to push things as much as possible in order to have content spread out through the next year. Because the only thing that the SAG-AFTRA strike has done so far is delay everything. So a lot of the stuff that we were going to get at early next year is going to be late because there's nothing coming out sort of 6 months from now. Nothing. 6 months from now, there's not going to be any new stuff. It's all going to be reruns. Or it's going to be low budget stuff that people have been making because they're not members of SAG-AFTRA. So yeah, Exodus, if you enjoyed this video, please hit that thumbs up. And I hope you enjoyed this. I did enjoy making it, but like I say, it's difficult for me now to watch something and just be entertained. I have to actually break it down in my mind and analyze almost everything about it, especially sci-fi, especially knowing the science stuff that I've learned recently and the way things were believed to be back then. I mean, Event Horizon was very believable back then when it came out because a lot of the stuff that we've learned since then we didn't know. So that's how we thought it was like in space, but we know it's not now. So yeah, I would like to see a remake, obviously. But anyway, I mean, any suggestions, guys? Comment down below. Let me know. And may the Schwartz be with you always.